All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're tackling a profound theological puzzle, but we're going to use a surprisingly modern key to try and unlock it. So, how can the number one be so complicated? Well, it all starts with a single ancient Hebrew word that kind of challenges our whole idea of what one even means. You see, we're not talking about a mathematical one, like a solitary single digit. Think of it more as a one of unity. It's like when Genesis says two people become one flesh, or when many separate curtains are joined together to form one tabernacle. It's all about distinct parts forming one living, breathing whole. And this isn't just some linguistic fun fact, okay? This very specific idea of a composite one is absolutely central to understanding the nature of God in the biblical tradition. This right here, this is the Shema. It's the most famous declaration of monotheism in Judaism. And the word it uses for one is, you guessed it, echad. This suggests a unity that's full of relationship, a deep and interactive oneness, not the solitary loneliness of a single digit. In Christianity, this concept really gets fleshed out in the doctrine of the Trinity. Now, it's not about three separate beings. It's about one single, indivisible divine essence that's revealed in three distinct relations: Father, Son, and Spirit. Their lives are so perfectly interwoven that when you see one, you're really seeing them all. Okay, I know. This idea of one essence in three relations can be a bit of a head-scratcher. So, to really get a handle on what this composite unity is, sometimes it actually helps to look at what it is not. So, what's the real difference? Well, it really comes down to this. Is it about being one single entity, or is it about working as one? Mainstream Nicene Christianity says it's one single divine being, what theologians call an ontological unity. In contrast, Latter-day Saint theology describes three separate divine beings who are united in purpose. That's more of a functional cooperation. So, we've been wrestling with this ancient theological puzzle about composite unity, a concept that's thousands of years old. But what if a key to unlocking it isn't in another ancient text, but in a very, very modern one? What if the key to this whole ancient mystery is hidden not just in a modern text, but in a single, elegant equation from modern physics? Yep, Einstein's famous equation. We've all seen it. But what it reveals is just profound. Energy, mass, and the speed of light, they aren't separate things. They are distinct, sure, but they are completely interchangeable expressions of the very same underlying unity. And here's where it gets really fascinating. We can map this physical reality directly onto the theological one. Think of the Father as the constant, the underlying dimension of pure light. Think of the Son as mass, light condensed into tangible form. And the Spirit? That's energy, light in motion, the living breath of that reality. The analogy just holds up so well. Just like in physics, if you remove one term from that equation, the entire reality it describes simply collapses. And it's the same thing theologically. If you remove one person of the Trinity, the concept of this divine being just ceases to be whole. And this powerful analogy, this idea of interchangeability, it's built on a concept that's surprisingly shared by the world's great monotheistic faiths. And that concept is light. The New Testament, which came together in the first century, makes this declaration totally central to its understanding of God's nature. And then, 6 centuries later, the Quran echoes this profound statement. It even describes itself as confirming earlier revelations. And here it is, using the very same core metaphor. God is light. And this just brilliantly illustrates the connection. Both faiths aren't just using a pretty poetic phrase here. They are describing the fundamental medium of existence itself, the very same reality that E equals mc squared describes in the language of science. Now, check this out. The Quran itself provides a fascinating bridge. In this verse, it describes Isa, or Jesus, with terms that suggest a divine origin. He's called His Word and a Spirit from Him, phrases that imply they belong uniquely to God's own self-expression. So, how do we reconcile the composite unity of Christian Echad with the absolute, uncompromising unity of Islam, a concept known as Tawheed? Now, this isn't just about finding some middle ground. It's about understanding what Tawheed truly emphasizes. The Quran's warning against saying three isn't necessarily a flat-out rejection of relationship within God. You can actually understand it as a fierce protection of God's indivisible oneness, like a guardrail against the error of splitting God into three separate, competing deities. So, here's the crucial point. When you lay it all out, you see these frameworks might actually be describing one single reality. Physics uses the language of constant, mass, and energy. Theology uses Father, Son, and Spirit, but the underlying pattern of an interchangeable unified reality is identical. So ultimately, they aren't opposites. You could see them as two ways of articulating the exact same core truth, that the source of all reality isn't a chaotic multiplicity, but a single unified field of being whose fundamental nature is light. And this convergence of ancient faith and modern physics, it leaves us with a final provocative thought to consider. If they are both pointing to the same essential reality, what other truths might be hidden in their dialogue?